Breaking news! Godzilla has leveled the city of Atlanta. Oh, wait, no. That was just Scottie Barnes.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey! What's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Monday, January the 27th, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 11 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on Blue Sky. You can also find the show on Instagram, and you can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server, link in the description of the podcast to be part of our little family of sickos over there on the Discord. Of course, you can subscribe for free to the daily Locked On Raptors newsletter as well. You can go to the QR code on the screen and just click through there if you're watching on YouTube, or you can go to the link in the description of the podcast if you're listening and sign up there. We're over 1,500 subscribers, which is bananas. It's wonderful. Thank you to all of them who have subscribed. And keep on doing that as I churn out these piping hot blogs 5 days a week. Some like game reporting and stuff like that baked in there too. Please go do it. It's free, 100%. You'll never be asked to pay a cent. It's just right to your inbox every single day. Taking a deuce never got so fun. All right, today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, where Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers bet $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. And we'll get started here on your Monday edition of the show, talking about the Toronto Raptors sweeping their way through Atlanta, 117-94. They smashed the Hawks, who did not have Jalen Johnson, who's basically been the source of all of their good minutes this season, in fairness. But the Raptors go 2-0 down in Atlanta, and their defense looks awesome. And Scottie Barnes continues to do the damn thing. We will get into all of that. We're going to talk about a little hypothetical. Now that the Raptors have won 5 of 6, are we dreaming on a crazy run to the finish? We'll get into that. And we've got, of course, the good, the bad, and the to close out the show. But let's bring in today's guest, our dear pal. It's a Big V Monday. Usually it's been Tuesdays a lot lately, but we're back to Big V Monday. It's Vivek Jacob from Raptors in 7, his great Substack newsletter, as well as Sportsnet, sportscasting on down the list. I almost said Scotty. How are you? Vivek, how are you?
I mean, Scotty's everywhere all the time, so he might be lurking, somewhere in this conversation. But I'm doing well. Nice to see the Raptors on this win streak. I think it's good for the morale. It's good for just the overall spirits of the season. And I'm fresh off some good quality sleep after the Australian Open. 2 weeks of the Aussie Open have definitely taken a toll, but we are back, baby.
You're a sicko. That's why we love you. We love Scottie Barnes these days too, because that man just keeps on winning minutes when he's on the floor in this game against the Hawks. It starts with him: 24 points, 12 boards, 7 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 8 of 17 overall after a pretty ugly start from the field. Really kind of, I think, honed in what was working, what was not, ditched the threes in the second half, and had himself a really efficient game overall. He's getting to the line, 7 of 7 at the line. That's been a nice little uptick of late as well. Scottie Barnes doing it all, man. And I think it probably, the offense was nice for him in this game. The defensive stuff from him of late has been off the charts awesome. And the Raptors defense as a whole seems to be coming into form. We saw RJ Barrett play one of his best defensive games after maybe kind of getting called out by Scottie Barnes after the first game against the Hawks, per what's coming out of the team at practice on Sunday. Just like a lot of good things to like about how the Raptors defended in this one. Scottie Barnes, chief among them, Big V, yeah?
Yeah, no question, man. I think the way that he has played of late, I think, we've talked about the mid-range comfort that he's shown. I think the leadership growth is there for everyone to see. You mentioned now, sort of what's been going on with Barrett, and, kind of even joking in the locker room that Barrett got the biggest stop of the game and was getting cooked otherwise by Dyson Daniels. So it's good that they're having fun with it. And I think that's probably the type of tone that Scottie's leadership leans towards when I see him as a person. And so I think that's a healthy way to go about it. And yeah, I think the way he closed out the game against the Hawks the first time around. And then I think the way he sort of set the tone defensively against the Hawks, obviously it was a bad start again. And you can see him sort of shaking his head going to the bench. That's not how they wanted to come out. And then the bench does their thing. But the way they started the third quarter, especially, you had Scottie get in for that driving layup with the left. He had that mid range. He had the big nasty block on Okongwu. And I thought that kind of really set the Raptors up to kind of take that one home pretty comfortably in the end.
Yeah, man, he's as you said off the top, he is everywhere all the time. And just like the subtle improvements in like every facet of his defense have been really impressive. He's so much better at the point of attack. Remember, he used to be this sort of overzealous. He would get way too into guys' shirts and get blown by too easily, kind of forget that he's 6'9" with like a 7'4" wingspan. And he's really kind of just like letting his length do the talking now. He's better in screen navigation, fighting over, fighting through, staying glued to his guy. He is, of course, this beautiful, devastating help defender who just like swallows stuff up at the rim. We saw it in that Thursday game at the very last play of the game, just kind of there to contest a would-be game winner from DeAndre Hunter. Just like he's everywhere. It's awesome. The impact numbers from him are off the charts ridiculous. He is now a 94th percentile on-off differential player per clean the glass per my last check on Sunday, in this range of guy. And there's some other guys who kind of make an appearance in this list because, on-off numbers are weird and it's all about who you're playing with. But of the guys who are in the top 10 percentile in on-off differential when it comes to defense, you have Victor Wembanyama. Ever heard of him? Evan Mobley, Jaren Jackson Jr., some of the best defenders alive are in this range of guy. Also, Pascal Siakam shout out number 1 in defensive on-off differential because he's the only guy along with Andrew Nembhard who is number 2 who can defend on the Pacers. But it's just been remarkable to see Scottie Barnes kind of take this leap. And it's not your conventional leap that you see from a star player. It's happening on the opposite end that we typically see it. But he is just like, if the team were better right now, he would be in all defense conversations. And he would be, if he makes all defense, which could happen if one of the situations we're going to talk about in the Would You Rather we're going to get to coming up in just a second. If that happens, all of a sudden he's getting that 30% max, which is pretty interesting to consider as well. Lots to dive into here with Scottie Barnes. But beyond him, we talked about the accountability stuff. I did think this was one of RJ Barrett's best defensive games as a Raptor. Really stout at the point of attack, wasn't getting moved off his spot like he usually is. We saw Orlando Robinson come on off the bench and was just like this brick wall of rim protection. Not much on the offensive end from Orlando Robinson, but it's a very large man occupying a lot of space in the middle of the floor. The defense is rounding into form here, Big V. They're number 2 in defense over the last 6 games. I know it's just 6 games, but hot damn, that's really good stuff.
It is good stuff. And it is, we've alluded to this before. It is sort of a coming together of the focus, the intensity, the execution. And I think there's been this consistency and approach that we've seen pretty much, I would say, since that stretch of losing was done. What was it, 16 of 17 that they lost. And then, I think the Boston game was a big one at home to come out and get that. And I think overall, like, we've just seen more intensity on that end. And maybe that comes again with the comfort of understanding what Darko wants, right? And it's like, okay, like, we actually believe like we can execute this thing now.
Yeah, 100%. It's been great to see. Darko seems to have ideas on defense, which is nice after it being unclear as to what the plans were for quite some time. You get all your players back, things get a little bit easier. Scottie Barnes starts playing like a dragon, and that makes a lot of things easier as well. We're going to come back on the other side here, Big V, and get into a would you rather that's going to drive the tank-brained folks insane. But we got to talk about it because the Raptors are storming. They're 5-1 in their last 6. And I don't know if you've heard this, but they have the easiest remaining schedule. So some stuff is on the table that we're going to examine coming up in just 1 second. And I'm sure everyone will be very normal about it. Today's show is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel, the number 1 sportsbook in North America. And look, Super Bowl 59 is here, and I'm sorry, I know there's probably a lot of Bills fans listening in due to our geographical location. I'm very sorry to be talking about the Super Bowl, but you knew what was going to happen. I haven't watched football in 6 years, and even I knew what was going to happen when I tuned into that game last night. Either way, one game, two teams, endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets, and the game unfolds. And as the game unfolds, you'll feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. Look, I am not someone who's probably going to watch the Super Bowl this year because I was basically in it for the Bills. I am not really a football fan, but the Bills were this fun underdog story. And had they made it and vanquished the evil Kansas City Chiefs, I might have been back on the wagon, but alas, I'll tune back in a year from now. But if you're a diehard football fan, if you're looking, maybe you're a Bills fan looking to soothe your pain after losing in the AFC Championship, you just want to make some bucks. Maybe you want to bet on the Eagles to beat the damn Chiefs and get some money out of it too. You can go and do that over at FanDuel for the Super Bowl. Download the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Just bet $5. And if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. Back at it here with Big V as we come to the Would You Rather portion of the show, where if you're not familiar, this is a parlor game we sometimes play here on the show, where I outline two pretty unlikely scenarios, and we talk about which of those unlikely scenarios we would most like to see take place for your Toronto Raptors. And so I'm doing it. They've won 5 of 6. They have the easiest schedule left to go. And Scottie Barnes is doing the damn thing and winning his minutes. By the way, just a quick note. I forgot to get this into the first segment. You mentioned the start of the game where Scottie came out early and looked frustrated. They were a -9 in those minutes. Yeah, he finished this game a +26. Bonkers. Crazy stuff. Anyway, with Scottie Barnes playing like this, it's, maybe the wins will be easier to come by than they have been for the earlier part of the season. So my would you rather here, Big V, is, would you rather this Toronto Raptors team, currently 13-32, started the season 10-31 in the first half, go on a 2016-17 Miami Heat ass run and finish the season 41-41, meaning a 31-10 finish, one game better than that Heat team led by Dion Waiters and James Johnson and some other ragtag crew dudes? Would you rather see the Raptors do that or trade all the vets, engineer losses, and finish at 22-60? What you got? What would you rather?
Yeah, I would rather the 22-60. I think.
Ooh, he's
I think
got the tank brain. He's got the tank brain.
I think you're going to disagree, but I do think looking at the schedule, even though it is the easiest remaining schedule, so much of it is baked into the final 20 games of the season. Yeah. And I think when you look at this upcoming stretch right now, I mean, we can go through it. Like, yes, you've got 3 relatively easy games coming up against New Orleans, Washington, and Chicago. Okay.
That sounds like a 6-game win streak, baby.
And it might be. But
well on the way to 41-41.
So you tell me how many of the next set of games are winnable. Okay.
Okay.
So Clippers, Knicks, Grizzlies, Thunder, Rockets, Sixers, Cavs, Heat, Suns, Celtics, Pacers, Bulls, Orlando twice.
Based on how they're playing right now, I would say like a game under 500, 2 games under 500, probably. Like, I think that's crazy. Is that crazy? Like, the Sixers stink.
So that's a 14-game stretch, and I think 5 would be the best case scenario.
You think 5 would be the best case? Okay, let me rattle through these. Let me see it from my eyes. Pelicans, I mean, that's a coin flip because the Pelicans are a little healthier now.
So I'm saying ignoring those 3, right?
Okay, so you're ignoring those ones. Okay. Clippers feels like a coin toss. They're fine.
Does it?
Total. I don't know. They're fine. They're not like a sexy, incredible team that, like, the Raptors almost beat them earlier this year without Scottie Barnes. So, and they were terrible at the start of the season. So like 60-40 Clippers. The Raptors won't be favored in that game. Let's put it that way. The Raptors will be favored in probably 3 of these games at best. It's totally fair. But like, I don't know. We've seen them go 2-0 against the Pacers this year. The Bulls, not scared. The Bulls stink. The Sixers are terrible. The Heat are, who the hell
It's so
knows what the
funny
Heat are going
saying
to be
another
by
team stinks
February
when your team
21st.
is 13-32.
Hey, they're 5-1 in their last 6. That's what have you done for me lately, Big V? That's what this league is about. And like the Heat, who knows what the Heat are going to be by February the 21st? Like, I don't know. Like they're playing pretty good basketball. The run they've had here has been against teams that have all been favored to beat them as well. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's nuts. But yeah, you're probably going in that 14-game stretch, 5-9, 6-8. That's probably the sweet spot. But this isn't a what's more likely to happen. It's a what would you rather happen here, Big V? And I'm going to tell you why you're wrong. Say 22-60. Look, to be clear, I do not think this is going to happen. And so I'm not worried about this like really spiraling into a thing where we actually have to consider its existence. It's not going to happen this way. But if the Raptors were to pull off a 31-10 second half and finish 41-41 in the back of Scottie Barnes looking like the dude, that feels good to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm old-fashioned and like the players who are good on my basketball team to prove that they're really good at winning basketball games. And if they were to pull off a 31-10 run, I don't know, man. That's 2013-14 Raptors level stuff. That is like, and they would even be better in that stretch than the Raptors were to finish that season. Like that is the type of thing that if you can't enjoy that, if you can't enjoy your team going 31-10 over a stretch of games, like, I don't know, maybe get a different hobby. That would be extremely cool. Again, I don't think it's going to happen. I do not think this is really going to sustain itself because the secret sauce right now are the bench guys, and most or all of them are likely to be traded in the next 10 days. And that's going to make things a lot harder. They are the secret sauce. You take the sauce away, and it's just a Big Mac with no sauce. That's a dry guy with extra bread you don't need. Individual components are fun and interesting, like the pickles, like the meat, like the cheese, but together, not exactly a winning combination. Probably a similar situation to what you'll have when it's Scottie Barnes, the rest of the starters, and then a whole bunch of rookies filling out the rotation. They will lose games. Rookies lose minutes. It's just how it goes. And, if it gets to the point where Scottie Barnes is carrying a bunch of rookies to wins, then I don't know, man. I'm not getting in the way of that either. So, yeah, I think as like a pure sort of thought exercise, finishing 41-41 after a 10-31 first half sounds pretty damn rad to me. And I do not think it's going to happen. And I think it's far more likely they finish 22-60 than 41-41 before people start throwing tomatoes at their screens to try to hit me. Not hitting me, just ruining your computer, guys. Stop doing it. But like, it's just, yeah. I get the tank desires and all of that, but if you can't enjoy a 31-10 finish, this very hypothetical, not going to happen 31-10 finish, get some friends, go outside, touch grass, enjoy the sports, man. Any rebuttal? Have I tilted your opinion on this at all?
No.
Wow, he's tank poisoned everybody. He's tank brained. Unbelievable. Get this man some medication.
Look, just because you want the team to tank doesn't mean that you don't enjoy winning. Like, it's just thinking about what's best for the team long term. And we've discussed this, like, in terms of what is best for the team long term, considering the salary cap ramifications, like having a top 5 pick in this draft class is going to be extremely valuable. And I'll be frank, like, say, even if the Raptors were to win these next 3 games, right? And in my opinion, go a best case 5-9 in that stretch that we talked about, they would be right back to 20 games under 500.
Yeah.
And so for me, if you're 20 games under 500 with 20 games to go with this draft class, it would be borderline malpractice to try and win from there.
Totally.
So I think it's not about, thinking that winning is bad or anything like that. It's just about thinking what is best for the long term of this franchise. And I think it is it works out really well that the Raptors have been able to win these games and not actually lose too much in the ping pong ball race, because the Blazers have won 4 of 6. The Hornets have won 4 of 6. And so have the Pelicans.
Yep. Sixers won 2 in a row. Yep.
So, I think that all almost kind of plays into it, where you look at the standings and say, yeah, it's totally fine for us to compete. It's totally fine for us to all of a sudden make the right challenge calls as well and
Mhm.
win them. And you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I do think there'll be a bit of a flip of the switch going back here, and this has been an important thing for the morale. I think you need these stretches in a season just to withstand, because it's just too much losing, and
Mhm.
that's when you really allow for the bad habits to kind of seep in, and so this has been important from that standpoint. But I do think it's important to keep. It's just more important to keep the big picture in mind.
Sure, I totally hear that. And look, I'm a man torn in two here between my desire to see a hilarious 31-10 finish that makes everybody mad, because I think it's like objectively one of the funniest things could happen, while also being like genuinely pretty cool and good. If Scottie Barnes in particular is good enough to drag a team to that kind of record in half a season, like again, one of them good problems. It probably changes the calculus of what you think you need for this team if he does that, which again, he's not going to. And man, like if he does, it's hilarious. Again, it's like one of the funniest possible things. Yeah, so I'm torn between wanting to see that and also the understanding and acceptance that, yeah, like them being bad this year is in fact good for them long term. I'm not stupid. I know that's the case. But again, we're talking hypotheticals here, and a 31-10 finish is so extreme and would mean such good things are happening when it comes to Scottie Barnes, the guy this whole thing is hinging upon, that I think you'd make your peace with it if you started to see them rattle off this type of streak. And if they get into February through this stretch of games and they've still continued to play incredible basketball, then things get real interesting for those final 20 games, and things can kind of, again, spiral in the way that makes me feel very good and laugh a lot, while also probably rooting the pick and making everybody insane. Again, best of both worlds.
You know what this kind of reminds me of?
Yeah.
This is like the year the Raptors got back into the playoffs with Bosch. And
Oh,
it
yeah.
was like, oh, would you rather play the New Jersey Nets or the Washington Wizards? And everyone was like, give me Vince. And it's like, really, you want Jason Kidd and Vince Carter and Richard Jefferson, or do you want a Washington Wizards team that has Caron Butler and Gilbert Arenas injured?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And it's like, give me Vince.
So how does this compare at all to this situation?
It's like there's clearly one way that is better
Oh, gotcha. I see. I see. Yeah, yeah. But yeah,
for
no,
the
the
long-term
sports
interests.
catharsis is an
And it's
important
like,
thing, though.
yeah, if you want the emotional high of right now, then
Hmm.
sure, go 31-10.
Hmm. I mean, if
But
they go 31-10 to finish the year, they're almost certainly making like some kind of big ass trade for an upgrade in the summer, right? Like that's just the route they take instead. Where they dangle the 10th pick in this draft plus future picks and RJ Barrett and Gradey Dick and say, hey, bring us in a nice wing or something like that. And they fix everything that way. We're getting way ahead of our skis here, but that's what we do. Like I said, I don't think this is going to sustain. Once they trade the vets, it's probably going to start to really downturn, and that's probably fine. It's great that we've seen this stretch. It's really fun. Awesome to see Scottie Barnes doing this thing. I do think there's something to the idea that Scottie Barnes plays better basketball when the team is competitive, which is maybe something to consider before you go and shut things down. He just like, and I don't know if it's chicken or egg thing, like him being better makes the team competitive or being competitive makes him kind of more engaged, but something to at least kind of weigh in your mind here. But yeah, they're even in this month of January where they've been totally competent. They're 6-6 this month. They're number 18 in offense and number 16 in defense. They're not exactly blowing teams away. And so once the vets are gone, I think this is probably going to go back to where it was to start the year. Plucky, fun, bad, but interesting nonetheless. And I just hope they don't shut down Scottie Barnes in like mid-February, because that would be a damn shame. We will come back on the other side, round things up with the good, the bad, and the from the game against the Hawks. Chris Boucher, man, he just keeps on being the good. We'll get into that and more coming up to close things out. Wrapping it up here, we got the good, the bad, and the the way we wrap up every single episode of this here podcast on the heels of a Toronto Raptors basketball game. A thing we liked, a thing we didn't like, and a thing that's got us a wee bit intrigued from the latest in Raptors hoop, which in this case is a Saturday win over the Atlanta Hawks. I will give you the floor, Big V. What you got for your good?
For my good, I am gonna roll with the man you just mentioned, Chris Boucher. Just
I set you up and you steal my guy. Unbelievable.
I mean, he was just awesome. I think
This
the
is
way
Rajon Rondo ass behavior. Anyway, carry on.
this is one thing we didn't talk about before the show.
This is true. Yeah.
Which we usually do. But Chris Boucher, I think he deserves two goods, in fact. So it's fine.
Yeah.
I think, ever since Vince Carter, the shock doctor, just kind of came in and did his thing.
And said, follow through. I guess I could be a shot doctor too. Hey, you follow through. Oh, genius. Pay me millions.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, you could make a good out of like all of the trade guys. And it's like,
I've got
obviously
for all the trade guys coming up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
There you go.
So I think the way he's been shooting the ball, the way, I'll spin it this way. As a guy, like when you look at who he could potentially fit in, I would love to see him on the OKC Thunder.
Ooh.
I think if you look at what they're missing, obviously, I think if there's a bit of a weakness on a team that strong, I'd say maybe like the 3-point shooting volume isn't quite where they would want it to be. Obviously, Chet being absent hurts that, but I think having a bit of a crazy guy off the bench is something that they could use too, and someone who could just like swing a playoff game with the stretches that Boucher is capable of. Obviously, you'd be getting him together with Luguentz Dort, which he'd love. He'd be with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, which he'd love. So if there was some kind of deal to be worked out there, obviously we know the Thunder have all the picks in the world.
And they're horrified to trade them because Sam Presti is a perv.
But I think the way he's been playing, that is probably the best fit that I could see. You can maybe throw the Nuggets into the mix just because they don't really have much of a bench, and they would
need
gladly
dudes
take
with pulses. Yeah.
and honestly, like Boucher, the biggest case Jokic probably has for MVP right now, beyond the obvious numbers, is making Westbrook a viable NBA player again. And then you throw Boucher into that mix, and I think he would thrive playing off Jokic, right?
Hell, give him Davion Mitchell too.
So yeah, that's my good.
That's good. He was awesome. He's the 23 points in 21 minutes on 7 of 10. Just the standard Chris Boucher line these days, which is so funny. The Thunder is an interesting one because, like, kind of strangely dimensioned big man with some shooting juice. He would be a very aspirational player for Chet Holmgren to one day try to grow into. So there's that. I'll do a quick bonus good. He was my bad on Thursday, but Jacoby Walter looked good in this game. Just 16 minutes, 7 points, 3 boards, 3 assists. Nothing crazy, but some nice drives that didn't pay off in good things. Jacoby Walter, man, there's something there. It's going to take a little while to kind of flesh it out, but he's got some juice, and we like it. Speaking of juice, I hear the Jersey Mike's in Union Station is open now, and I'm going to be hitting that up before the game today, which is my bonus good. I can't wait. Let's go to the bad. That is my bad is it's kind of a bad twinged with some good. Gradey Dick was not good in this basketball game, but I kind of love the tough love approach Darko Rajakovic is kind of taking here, in that he is not afraid to bench Gradey Dick's ass if Gradey Dick is not bringing it, specifically on the defensive end. And we've kind of, during that December swoon for the team, there was all kinds of, sports radio ass takes of where's the accountability? Who's holding this team to account? Rah, rah, rah. No one's being mean enough. They need a disciplinarian in there. That's dumb. You can see what disciplinarianism is doing with Mike Budenholzer and Yusuf Nurkic, who have not spoken for 2 months, apparently. Like, I don't know, maybe just like being a nice person with constructive feedback who's going to hold you to account in sort of normal brained ways and not like poisoned sports coach brain ways is a good thing. And I like that Darko is not afraid to bench Gradey. It seems like Gradey responds to it pretty well too. Like, every guy has their own buttons. Every guy needs to be handled differently. And maybe they've just figured out the way to deal with Gradey Dick. But, you kind of couple this with Scottie Barnes calling guys out. And I don't think there's any doubt that there's accountability going on with this team, which is great. You love that. Nice culture. Ooh, good stuff. Even though Gradey Dick was bad, I've flipped it into my fourth good in just a couple of minutes here. Because why not? They're 5-1 in their last 6 on their way to finishing in the playoffs. Big V, what was your bad from this one?
Yeah, so again, watching this game, it was hard to pick out a bad. I mean, I think you're spot on with the Grady analysis, and I do think over, big picture, looking beyond this game and just maybe the month of January as a whole, I do think it's been good for him to not play as many minutes and have the minutes kind of cut down. I think energy wise, he's been in a better place. Obviously, the defensive execution still has a long way to go. And yeah, from the way you put it, in terms of holding him accountable, you're in a place where you can do that now because you got, someone like Bruce playing as well as he is.
Totally.
So for my bad, I'm going to go back into sort of the tank mode and the standings watch. And so it is a bad thing. Of course you will,
because you have a brain disease. Carry on. We're not here to judge.
So it is a bad thing that the Brooklyn Nets have lost 6 straight. And now they are right there with the Raptors in the standings. And that's what I will go with as my bad.
Yeah. What are you going to do, man? They're like... I don't know. Would you rather your team be utterly shameless like the Jazz or the Wizards or the Nets?
I'm saying there's
some
barely any
kernel of integrity.
Yeah. I'm saying there's nothing bad to really say about the Raptors, so I have to pick something.
Yeah. I don't think it's bad that the Raptors are not doing the Nets thing. Let's put it that way.
I mean, the Nets are doing it now. It's like they're catching up.
Yeah, they also have to because they don't have any good players to speak of, like, at all. Like, at least the Raptors have some you can kind of dream on. In particular, Scottie Barnes, who is pretty damn good. The for me is like, I've talked about how I don't believe in the concept of showcasing guys for the deadline as a thing. Generally, I think pro scouting staffs and advanced scouts know these teams inside and out. It's not like you're surprising teams by being like, hey, look, Chris Boucher, shiny 3 weeks of basketball. Ooh. But in the case of the Raptors, guys, maybe it's actually a thing because the guys who are the trade chips for the Raptors are playing so damn well. I can't recall a time, in recent history in the NBA where this many guys who are potentially going to get moved are playing this freaking well going into the deadline and maybe lining up a team to pay more than maybe we thought they were going to be worth a month ago, which to me, like, I thought maybe they weren't going to get a whole lot of anything for any of these guys a month ago. Doesn't so much seem like the case now, and that's great. Again, we'll see. There's still 10 days before the deadline. The play could crater, all of that, but pretty interesting stuff that they may actually, in fact, be successfully showcasing these guys. Big V, what you got for your
So I think Scottie's perimeter defense is now in that category for me because I think coming into this season, you viewed him as someone who was ideally suited to be in the back line, have that rim protection, have that sort of safety, free safety kind of role and just roam and create havoc that way. But and to the points we were making earlier, we did see him sort of defend far too tight on perimeter guys and allow for blow-bys. And so the growth he's shown in figuring that stuff out, it does change his ceiling as a defender. And so I think this is something that will have to continue for a while longer to really believe that it's sticking. But this is in that category that, when you mentioned all defense, if the Raptors were a tad higher in the standings, let's say,
which they will be by the time the half season is over and they've done the Miami Heat thing, of course. Yes.
If they were a top 6 team in the East, the level he's at right now would probably be in the conversation, at least for an all NBA third team.
Yeah.
And
pretty awesome.
Yeah. And that, I think, is a significant mark. Obviously, you look at the top 8 to 10 guys in the league, that's going to be really, really tough to crack. But getting into that all NBA third team conversation, again, if the Raptors were much higher up the standings, that's significant.
The Venn diagram of people who will be pissed off that they've ruined the tank by going on a heater to close the season, and who will also be pissed off if Scottie Barnes gets the 30% max because he made all NBA or all defense. It's a circle, baby. That is the circle of tank brain, and I think you're part of it. So have fun with all your little sick friends. We'll send you some money for charity or something. We're gonna leave it there. Big V, anything you want to promote for the good people out there?
Usual stuff. The latest Raptors in 7 is out. Came out this morning, so you can check that out. Usual stuff. Sportsnet, sportscasting, and you can follow me on Twitter on Blue Sky at Vivek M Jacob.
Hell yeah. You can find the show on Discord, link in the description of the podcast. You find me on Discord, not the show, although sometimes I post links in there. You can go to the newsletter, QR code on the screen, link in the description. You can follow, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend, find me on Blue Sky, etc., etc. We'll talk to you again on Tuesday talking about the Raptors' 6th win in 7 games against the New Orleans Pelicans coming up tomorrow. Thanks so much for hanging. Bye-bye. Air.